All right. Well, teachers, we've got Kieran Donaghy joining us today for our second session in this block, and he's going to deliver a session on multimodal literacy and ELT. So just to give him a brief introduction, so Kieran is an award-winning author, international conference speaker, and trainer as well. He's the author of books for both students and teachers of English, and he's also the author of the Oxford University Press position paper on multimodal literacy and ELT, which is coincidentally the topic of the session today. So, Kieran, if you are ready, I will go ahead and hand it off to you.
Okay, great. Thank you. Thank you very much, Josh, for the introduction, and thank you very much to Oxford University Press for inviting me to speak at ELT. It's a great honour, and thank you everyone for attending the session. So, as Josh mentioned, I'm going to be talking about multimodal literacy in ELT, multimodality in ELT. Josh mentioned that I authored the OUP position paper on multimodality in ELT, and you'll be able to download that at the end of the session. I'll give you a QR code at the end of the session. What I'd like to do just before I start the session, I'd like to do a poll, and the poll, if you can just see that poll there, do you use images, videos or short films in your classes? If you could just click on one of the options, please. Okay, so if you could just click on whichever option is the correct one for you. Often, sometimes, rarely, never, and I'll see the results of that in a moment. Okay, so I'm interested to know if you use images, if you use videos, if you use short films in your classes. Okay. Okay. And I imagine that the poll results will come up in a moment. Okay, fantastic. That's fantastic. That's lovely. Okay, so, and that's great to see. So the majority of teachers often use images, video, short films. A lot sometimes, and about 10% rarely or never. Okay, so what's good there is that the majority of teachers are already using images, already using videos, using short films in the classroom. That's related to what we're going to be doing today. And so what we're going to be doing today, multimodal literacy, may seem a little bit intimidating. You don't know about it, but you're already doing lots of things that I'm going to be talking about today. Okay, so that's great to know. So thank you very much for answering the poll there. Thank you. Okay, so this is an overview of the session, what we're going to be doing today. Okay, so first of all, we're going to look at the contemporary communication environment and how it's changed in the digital age in the 21st century. Then we're going to look what a mode is, and then explore what a multimodal text is, what multimodality is, and what multimodal literacy is, and why multimodal literacy is important in ELT. Then we're going to look at the implications of multimodal literacy on what we teach, the content that we teach, and how we teach. Okay, the activities, the approaches that we use. And then we're going to look at viewing frameworks, which have been developed at very prestigious institutions throughout the world. And these viewing frameworks have been used for decades in general education and are now beginning to be used in language education. Okay, so that's an overview of what we're going to be doing today. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do, we're going to look at the contemporary communication environment. Okay, so traditionally, English language programs have generally seen communication as using written and spoken language, which makes perfect sense. However, in the current communication environment, written texts are being replaced as the principal mode of communication by a combination of text and still and moving images that we view on screens. Okay, so there's been a change in contemporary communication, and this is reflected, if you look at this collage here, this reflects the change in communication from media formats that were dominated by print text, by alphabetic texts, to texts in the 2020s, where we have the texts are dominated by images, but the images are working together with alphabetic text to form a communicative act. So the communication is increasingly visual and multimodal in nature. Okay, because of this, okay, we have to reconsider what contemporary communication means, and we have to teach our students to communicate in a realistic way. Okay, and what we can see is that it's clear that in the 21st century, in the digital age, literacy is more than language, and communication is more than just writing and speech. Okay, so this is very important. Okay, as I mentioned before, communication today's society is increasingly visual, it's increasingly multimodal in nature, so we have to change our understanding of literacy as well as our literacy practices. Okay, so what we're going to do, we're going to examine what a mode is. Many of you will have heard of multimodality, won't be clear about it, so we're going to go through exactly what it means. So what is a mode? Essentially, a mode is a means of communicating. Okay, so each mode serves different purposes and works in different ways. And it's important to be aware of the different modes used in communication to fully understand the meanings that are being conveyed in messages. Okay, there are 5 modes of communication. There's the linguistic mode, the oral mode, the visual mode, the gestural mode, and the spatial mode. And we're going to go through and explain each mode very briefly. Okay, so the linguistic mode focuses on the meaning of writing or spoken language in communication. Okay, so this obviously includes the choice of words, it includes the organization of words into sentences and paragraphs, and it also includes vocabulary, grammar, structure, and syntax. And obviously, as English language teachers, we're particularly interested in this mode of communication, and we will continue to be interested principally in this mode of communication. We have the visual mode. So the visual mode focuses on the meaning of what can be seen by the viewer. Okay, so the visual mode includes images, includes symbols, signs, and videos. But also importantly, it includes aspects of visual design such as the color, the layout, the font type, and the font size. Okay, so the visual mode there. We have the aural mode, and this focuses on the meaning of what can be heard by the listener. So this includes the voice, the sound effects, ambient noise, music, and silence. Obviously, as language teachers, we're particularly interested in this mode as well. We will continue to be interested in this mode. The gestural mode focuses on the meaning of communication through movement. Okay, so this includes facial expressions, it includes hand gestures, body language, and interaction between people. And the spatial mode focuses on the meaning of communication through physical layout. So this includes the position, spacing, the distance between elements in a text, and the proximity between people and the proximity between objects. Okay, so these are the 5 modes of communication. Okay, so what is a multimodal text? Many of you will have heard of a multimodal text, but may not be exactly sure what it is. Okay, in very simple terms, when a text contains more than one of these modes of communication, it's considered to be a multimodal text. So if we consider a meme, this is a multimodal text because we have the photograph, the visual mode, but we also have the linguistic mode, the sentence. So the visual mode and the linguistic mode work together to create a communicative act. In this table, okay, you can see the different mode or modes used in different texts. For example, if we think about looking at a painting, this is a monomodal text because we're only using the visual mode. However, if we think about reading a graphic novel, this is a multimodal text because we have the linguistic mode, the alphabetic text on the page, but we have the visual mode with the drawings and the illustrations. So the linguistic mode and the visual mode works together to create a communicative act. If we think about watching a short film or a video, all of the modes are used here. We have the linguistic mode, we have the dialogue, we have the captions, the subtitles, we have the visual mode, we can see the actors, we can see the color, we have the aural mode, we can hear the dialogue, we can hear the music, we can hear sound effects, but we also have the spatial mode, the distance between the actors. We have the gestural mode, the body language and the gestures of the actor. So when we watch a film or video, all of the modes are present there. Okay. If we think about a number of different types of text, what modes are used to communicate meaning in the text? If we think about a novel, it's often considered to be a monomodal text because we have the linguistic mode, the printed words on the page, but also it could be the spatial mode, the layout of the text. So it could be considered to be a multimodal text. If we think about a methodology book, this is clearly a multimodal text because we have the linguistic mode, the text, but we also have the photograph, we have the screenshot, we also have the layout as well, elements of visual design there. The graphic novel, as we said before, we've got the linguistic mode and the visual mode working together. The meme, which we looked at before, we've got the visual mode and the linguistic mode working together. If we think about a website, and here we have a screenshot of the OUP website, this is clearly a multimodal text. We have the visuals, the photographs, the illustrations, the logo of Oxford University Press, but we also have the linguistic mode with the description of the products. We have also the spatial mode, the layout of the text. Okay, when we have a slide presentation, what I'm doing today, this is clearly a multimodal presentation. You can see my body language, you can see my facial expression, you can see my hand gestures, but you can also see the images that I'm using. You can see the text that I'm using as well. You can also hear me, so the aural mode is present there as well. If we think about a YouTube channel, what I'd like you to do here is to think about what modes of communication are used here on the Oxford University Press YouTube channel. So if you could put into the chat, please, what different modes of communication are used here on this YouTube channel. So just if you'd be kind enough to put into the chat what modes of communication are being used here. Okay, and I'll just give you a second to do that. Okay, so if you'd be kind enough just to put that into the chat there, what different modes are being used. Okay. Okay. Great. Okay, so we can see that the visual mode is being used there with the image of the presenter, the thumbnails there, the video. The aural mode is there when we click the video and we hear it. Okay, we have color there, so visual. We have the spatial with the layout of the text. We have the gestural of the presenter as well. So thank you very much for the great answers in the chat there. Okay, so we can see a variety of multimodal text there. What is multimodality? Okay, many of you will have heard of multimodality, but not sure what it is. But essentially, multimodality refers to the use of more than one mode of communication in a text to create meaning. And it describes how each mode contributes to the overall meaning of a multimodal text. Okay. Why is multimodality important? Because the vast majority of texts our students are encountering outside the classroom are multimodal texts. And these multimodal texts can combine alphabetic text with images and other modes. Okay, so the majority of texts our students are encountering are multimodal texts. That's why it's important in ELT. Okay, what is multimodal literacy? Most of you will be unfamiliar with this term, but we're going to go through it and I'm going to show how it relates to what you're already doing. Okay, so essentially, multimodal literacy means the ability to comprehend and respond to multimodal text, to understand and respond to multimodal text, but also the ability to compose multimodal texts, to create multimodal text. So the term multimodal literacy brings viewing and representing together in a single concept. So viewing and representing are two new skills which have been added to the English language curricula in a number of countries. Okay, so as I mentioned, a number of educational systems, including Canada, Australia, and Singapore, have reformed their English language curricula to include multimodal literacy, to include viewing and representing. And we're going to come to what viewing and representing are in a moment, okay? So I'm going to talk specifically today about Singapore, because in my opinion, the best work on multimodality and multimodal literacy is happening in Singapore. So in Singapore in 2020, their language syllabus integrates the skills of viewing and representing with listening, reading, speaking, and writing. Okay, so this is very, very important, a very, very important development. Okay, so we're going to look at now what is viewing. Okay, what viewing is. Now, to do this, what I'm going to do, I'm going to ask you to watch a short video. It's only 2 minutes long. And what I would like you to do, as you watch the video, I would like you to consider what is viewing. The video doesn't give you a definition of viewing, but it gives you some ideas of about what viewing may involve. Okay, so I'd like you to watch the video and then afterwards in the chat, say what you think viewing involves. What is viewing? Okay, so if we could have the video played now, please.
A visual manifesto for language teaching. Images. They create our world. They inhabit our space. They reflect what's in our mind's eye and are at the core of what we believe in, what we hope for, the beauty we see in others, in ourselves, the hope we find even in difficult moments. Images are an intimate part of our world, and they are everywhere. But how do we reflect on them now, with so many at once? Are they losing their impact? Do we really understand what we're seeing? Or is it lost in the bombardment? What do we need to do to make it stop? We can no longer be passive. We have to be more discerning, more selective, more collaborative. We have to recognize the stories on the surface and underneath and retell them in our own way, or tell our own stories. We have to slow down, stop, reflect, think about what we're seeing, why it's there, how it affects us, what it does to us emotionally, and why. When we are able to do this, we see beneath the surface to what is really there. And only then do we become the real message makers, the critical thinkers, and the true problem solvers who manifest the dreams of tomorrow.
Pause the video there. Thank you very much. Okay, fantastic. Thank you for that. So from watching that video, do you have any ideas what viewing is? If you could just put it into the chat, what viewing may involve, please. If you could just put into the chat, and I'll just give you just a few seconds for you to do that. Okay. Okay, some very, very interesting answers in the chat there. Fantastic. Okay, excellent. Thank you for that. Too many for me to read there. Okay, that's fantastic. But some very, very interesting things there. Okay, so what we're going to do, we're going to go back to Singapore and the Singapore language syllabus of 2020 with a very good definition of what viewing is. I'll just give you a moment to look at that. So viewing is the active process of applying skills and learner strategies to interpret and understand a variety of texts that use linguistic, visual, gestural, spatial, and semiotic features. Okay, so it's an active process of applying skills and strategies to interpret and understand multimodal text. So essentially, viewing is students understanding and responding to multimodal text. Notice in the definition, we have the different modes used: linguistic, visual, gestural, and spatial. Okay, the modes. One caveat is that they've forgotten to add the audio or aural. That should be included as well, but it's a very good definition. Okay, and in the Singapore English Language Syllabus 2020, listening, reading, and viewing are considered to be receptive skills which are required for making and generation of meaning from ideas or information. What's very important here is that in Singapore, in Canada, in Australia, and other states in the United States, now they call reading and viewing. They call listening and viewing. They consider that the communication happening in the 21st century, in the digital age, cannot be adequately described by just reading on its own or listening on its own. So they've extended the category of reading to reading and viewing. They've extended the category of listening to listening and viewing. This is vitally important, a huge change. It's vitally important. This, as I mentioned, this has happened in several countries. Okay, and David Crystal here talks about the need for both teachers and students to become used to a multimodal world, where the images and alphabetic text are working together to form communicative acts. This is vitally important, that alphabetic text, images, and other modes are working together to form communicative acts. Okay. Now, what's vitally important, that we don't see viewing and represent as something completely different or radically new. Viewing is already connected to what teachers are doing in the classroom. Okay, what the vast majority of teachers are doing already, they're already doing viewing. So when we ask our students to read a graphic novel or a picture book, they're practicing viewing. When we ask our students to look at a meme, they're practicing viewing. When we ask our students to watch a YouTube video, they're practicing viewing. When we ask our students to watch a television series or a feature-length film on YouTube for homework, they're practicing viewing in what's called, in this case, extensive viewing. When we ask our students to look at a website at homework to do research, they're practicing viewing. So it's important that we don't see viewing as something radically different to what we're already doing. It's connected to teachers' current teaching practice. Okay, now we're going to turn to what is representing. Okay, and what I'd like again, what we're going to do again, we're going to watch another short video, 2-minute video. And as you're watching the video, I'd like you to consider the question, what is viewing? The video doesn't give a definition of viewing, but it gives you an idea of what it may be related to. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to play this video here, and as you watch the video, please just consider the question, what is representing?
What if? What if we encourage students to read and write in all forms of communication, not just the traditional written word? What if we supported teachers with the tools to teach communication in a more visual way? What if we placed the image in all its different forms at the centre of teaching in order to encourage creative and imaginative paradigms? What if we encourage students to become more actively involved in the media culture that surrounds them, and to become producers rather than just consumers? What if we help students acquire the skills to become the filmmakers of the future? What if students use filmmaking as the medium for telling the stories that are relevant and important to them? What if we brought the media students are creating outside school into the classroom? What if we gave equal access to all young people so that filmmakers from different communities and different social backgrounds could tell their stories? What if?
Okay, that's fantastic. Okay, thank you. Okay, so if I could ask you in the chat, please, what you think representing may be. Okay, so we've got some really interesting answers there already. Okay, expressing ideas visually, creating multimodal texts. Okay, okay. Lots of fantastic answers there. Too many for me to go through there. Excellent. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for all of those answers. Okay. We're going to go back again to the Singapore English language syllabus. They have an excellent definition of representing. I'll just give you a minute to look at that. Okay. So representing is the active process of applying skills and strategies to present facts, ideas, and points of views through a variety of texts with linguistic, visual, gestural, audio, and spatial semiotic features. So this means that its students create multimodal texts. Okay, so this is students presenting their knowledge, presenting their ideas, presenting their opinions through multimodal text. And it's again specified the different modes: the linguistic mode, the visual, the gestural, the audio, the spatial. So a combination of two or more of these modes, and students create their own multimodal texts. Okay, again, in the Singapore English language syllabus, speaking, writing, and representing are productive skills, okay, that enable creation and communication of meaning. Again, in Singapore, Canada, and Australia, they now call writing, and representing, because they consider that the communication taking place in the 21st century, in the digital age, can no longer be adequately described just by writing. So they say writing and representing, the creation of multimodal texts. Okay. Again, I want to emphasize that representing is not something radically different, radically new for teachers. Teachers are already doing this. When you ask your students to create a poster, you're practicing representing, and many teachers, primary teachers, secondary teachers, will be asking their students to create posters. When we ask our students to create a collage, they're practicing representing. When we ask our students to create a storyboard, they're practicing representing. Okay, when we ask our students to create a short film or a video on their mobile phone, they're practicing representing. When we ask our students to create a meme, they're representing. Okay, when we ask our students to create an infographic or a PowerPoint presentation, they're practicing representing. So representing is not radically, this is already happening all over the world. Okay, so multimodal literacy important. If we go back to the collage we looked at the beginning of the session, contemporary communication is increasingly multimodal in nature. So we need to rethink the concept of communicative competence in ELT. Okay. Obviously, our main focus as language teachers should be on language. Our main focus should be on the linguistic mode, but we also need to be able to help learners develop their multimodal communicative competence, their ability to understand, to analyze multimodal texts, and their ability to create multimodal texts. Okay, and it's very important that we can help learners to appreciate and understand how images and other modes in multimodal text interact with spoken and written language. This is vitally important. Okay, And as most of the texts our students are encountering outside the classroom are a combination of print, text, image, and other modes, we should help learners explore how these different modes interact to create a communicative act, okay? And we should also give our students opportunities to communicate knowledge, information, ideas, opinions through multimodal composition. And the development of multimodal literacy prepares our learners to be effective communicators. Okay. And what's very important is the use of multimodal text in the classroom makes information more accessible for all learners. Very important to understand that multimodal text facilitate comprehension. They are better for comprehension than monomodal texts. So this is for all students, but multimodal text may be particularly beneficial for students with learning difficulties and disabilities. So multimodal texts are inclusive, more inclusive. Okay, now we're just going to turn to the implications of multimodal literacy on what and how we teach. Okay, and so one implication is that teachers should consciously design multimodal learning experiences to develop their learners' multimodal communicative competence. Okay, and in order to be able to design these multimodal learning experiences, teachers need to be aware of the learning processes in multimodal literacy. And Victor Lim of the Singapore National Institute of Education and Linda Tangier of the Singapore Ministry of Education proposed these 4 learning processes in multimodal literacy, okay, which you can see here, okay. We have encountering, exploring, evaluating, and expressing, and we'll go through each one of these very quickly. So the first learning process is encountering, and this focuses on emotional engagement with the multimodal verb. So the teacher engages the learners through effective learning experiences by valuing and appreciating their life worlds, their worlds beyond the classroom, beyond the school, by bringing multimodal texts from their daily lives as resources for discussion in the classroom. So bringing the types of multimodal texts students are encountering outside the classroom, such as TikTok videos, YouTube videos, memes, graphic novels, picture books, bringing them into the classroom. So the encountering process focuses on emotional engagement. The second learning process is exploring, and this focuses on cognitive understanding. So while students are exploring, they develop their knowledge, their skills, and their awareness in working with multimodal texts. So the teacher guides the learners in identifying and offering evidence to support their response to the multimodal text. So the exploring process focuses on cognitive understanding. The third process is evaluating, and this is characterized by critical perspectives, by students taking a critical approach to the multimodal text. So during the learning process of evaluating, the students are encouraged to adopt a critical approach in their analysis of the multimodal text, question the messages represented in the multimodal text. So the students aren't just passively consuming the multimodal text, they're critically analyzing it and questioning the messages in it. So the evaluating process focuses on critical perspectives. And the final learning process is expressing, and this focuses on multimodal composition. This means students creating their own multimodal texts. Okay, so expressing empowers learners to be active creators of meaning. They're active creators of meaning rather than just passive consumers of multimodal texts. Okay, so the expressing process focuses on multimodal composition. Okay, so for teachers to be able to design multimodal learning experiences, they need to be aware of these 4 learning processes, which will help them to develop their learners' viewing skills and develop their their learners' representing skills. Okay, now in addition to the 4 that we've learned, there are a number of pedagogical features that teachers should try to incorporate into their classes when they design multimodal learning experiences. And you can see the 6 pedagogical features here, and these are proposed by Victor Lim of the Singapore National Institute of Education. And we're just going to go through each one of the 6 pedagogical features very briefly. So the first pedagogical feature is that the text students encounter in their life worlds, their worlds outside the classroom, that we bring these texts into the classroom, and these should be used in multimodal learning. So using these culturally authentic texts that students can relate to helps to connect the learners out of school literacy practices with the literacy learning. Pedagogical feature is collaborative learning. So knowledge is constructed socially in the classroom when learners work together. So learners from diverse backgrounds and experience bring multiple perspectives, which can be productive for multimodal literacy learning. The third pedagogical feature is explicit teaching. So there are going to be occasions when collaborative learning is complemented by explicit teaching. So the teacher explicitly teaches the skills, the knowledge, the meta language of viewing and representing, rather than assuming that they're intuitive to learners. And the 5th pedagogical feature is digital technology. So digital technology can bring new pedagogical possibilities into the classroom, and it can expose learners to a range of viewing and representing practices that didn't exist in the traditional classroom, that didn't exist 20 years ago or even 10 years ago. Okay. And the 6th pedagogical feature is artifact making. What this means is creating multimodal text. So multimodal composing gives learners opportunities to represent their learning, their ideas, and their opinions. Okay, so these 6 pedagogical features distinguish a learning experience for multimodal literacy, and teachers should try to incorporate as many of these as possible into the classroom. Okay, now what we're going to do now, we're going to turn to for the last 15 minutes to viewing frameworks. And as I mentioned in the introduction, these viewing frameworks have been developed at prestigious institutions throughout the world and have been used in general education for decades and are beginning to be used in the language classroom. All of these frameworks are described in great depth in the opposition paper, the OUP opposition paper, which give you the QR code to at the end of the session, and you can download the position paper and download these frameworks. Okay, so the first framework we're going to look at is the Media Literacy 5 Key Questions framework. This framework was developed by the Center for Media Literacy in the United States in the 1980s. So this framework has been in use for over 4 decades, an incredibly powerful framework. So essentially, these 5 questions, students should be encouraged to ask these questions every time they encounter a multimodal text. Okay, whether that's an infographic, a viral video, a vlog, a TikTok video, a picture book, a graphic novel, in order to be able to evaluate and analyze it. Okay, so here we have the 5 questions. Who created this message? So was this message created by an individual? Was it created by a company? Was it created by a ministry? Okay, what creative techniques are used to attract my attention? Is music used to attract my attention? Is color used to attract my attention? Are block capitals used to attract my attention? How might different people understand this message differently to me? So this is a question which critically analyzes the text. What values, lifestyles, and points of views are represented in or left out of this message. So again, it's the students are taking a critical approach. Why is this message being sent? Is this message being sent to make me buy a product? Is this message being sent to try to persuade me to do something? Is this message being sent to gain power or influence? Okay, so these are the 5 questions. So what we would do, we would give students the multimodal text, in this case, a poster. If it's a poster or a photograph, what we could do, get students to view this for 1 minute in silence. This 1 minute of silent viewing is very important because it gets students to look in all areas of the multimodal text, not to view it superficially, but to view all areas of it. Okay, view the multimodal text inside 1 minute, and then we give the 5 questions, and they can note the 5 questions and answers to the 5 questions, share this with a partner or in groups, and then we get feedback from the whole class. Okay, so what I'd like you to do, please, if we just consider the question, what creative techniques are used to attract my attention in this multimodal text, in this poster? Okay, if you could just put into the chat, please, what techniques are used to attract your attention? Okay, if you just put that into the chat, please. Okay, capital letters. Okay, the gesture, the color. Okay, fantastic. Okay, excellent. The visual graphics. Okay, the image. Okay, the colors and the capitals. Fantastic answers there. So you can see how we could use these questions anytime that we encounter a multimodal text. Very, very powerful framework. Okay, so thank you for all of your answers there. Okay, we're just going to turn on to the next the next framework, which is step inside, perceive, know about, care about. And this is a visible thinking routine, and visible thinking routines are developed at Project Zero of the Harvard Graduate School of Education. And these routines were developed to foster learning in the arts, but also to foster oral expression and oral comprehension. So they're particularly appropriate for the language classroom. Okay, so this routine here is a routine for getting inside the role of a character from the picture, a painting or a photo students are looking at, or into the character of a short film, a character in a short film that students have just viewed, and then students speak or write from that chosen point of view. Okay, and so and these are the 3 core questions that guide students in this routine. Always these questions, 3 questions, always in this order. What can the person perceive? Perceive may seem very sophisticated, so we might like to tell students this means, what can the students see? What can the person hear? What can they see? What can they feel? What can they smell? What might the person know about or believe? So what might the person's knowledge or beliefs be? What might the person care about? Okay, what might be important to this person here? So again, we would give the text here, in this case here, a photograph. Students would look at it for 1 minute in silence. Again, this silent viewing for 1 minute is very important. And then we would look at the questions. What can the person perceive? What might the person know about or believe? What might the person care about? Students make their notes, and then they share that in speaking in pairs or groups, and we get feedback from the whole of the class. So a very, very powerful routine. We're going to look at another routine, See, Think, Wonder. This is another visible thinking routine developed at Project Zero of the Harvard Graduate School of Education. And there are 3 core questions that guide students in this routine. Okay, what do you see? What do you think about that? What does it make you wonder? Many of you will be familiar with this routine, a very, very powerful routine. Always these questions, always in this order. Again, so this this framework encourages students to make careful observations and thoughtful interpretations about a photograph or a painting that they're viewing. Okay, so we give the students the photo or the painting. They look at it again for 1 minute in silence. This 1 minute silent viewing, very important, so that we don't have a superficial viewing of the text. Again, we have the questions there. Students can make their notes and then share their answers with their partner, and then we share it with all the group. Okay, and well, finally, the last viewing framework we're going to look at is the 3 C's and the 3 S's, and this was developed by the British Film Institute in the United Kingdom. A very, very powerful framework, the best framework I know for working with short films and short videos. Okay, so the 3 C's are the color, character, camera. The 3 S's are the story, the setting, and the sound. Okay, so it's a viewing framework to help learners discuss and analyze all the elements of a film or video text. So specifically to be used with film and video texts. Essentially, the routine is to give students one of the S's or one of the C's. They watch the film, then they discuss the questions related to that C or S. Then the whole group shares their learning, their understanding, and then the students are assigned another S or C and they view it again. Okay, so what we're going to do, we're just going to go through very quickly the different the 3 C's and the 3 S's. So the color, so we say, what colors do you see? How do the colors make you feel? Okay, why do you think certain colors are used? Okay, so students would just focus on those questions the first time they view. The next time they can view, they can look at another, in this case, character. Okay, what do the main characters look like? How do the main characters speak? How do the main characters behave? Okay, and then we have the camera. Okay, what shots have been used? Can you name them? Okay, when do you see a long shot or a close-up shot? Okay, and so those are the 3 C's, these are the 3 S's. The story, what happens in the beginning, middle, and end of the story? That's a fantastic question to ask. What are the most important things that happened in the story? How would you like the story to continue? So students would just focus on the story here. Then the setting, where does the action take place? Why is the story set in a particular place? When and how does the setting change? Okay. And then the sounds, how many different sounds do you hear? What are they? Is there music in the film? How does the music make you feel? Okay, so each time the students watch, they focus on one facet of the short film. Okay, and just to mention again, all of these frameworks are in the position paper. You'll be able to download that, and there are it's explained in great depth how to use this in the position paper. Okay, so just some concluding thoughts and some takeaways from the session today. Okay, so in today's world, where communication is increasingly multimodal in nature, communication involves more than just speaking and writing. So now learners need to build in visual, aural, and spatial dimensions to communication. The traditional 4 skills of reading, writing, listening, and speaking are no longer sufficient. We have to expand the key skills to include viewing and representing. And as we've shown, this has been done in Canada, Singapore, and Australia, that now writing is writing and viewing. Listening is now listening and viewing. Reading and viewing, and writing and representing. Okay, so they've expanded the categories there. That using film and video now isn't a fun optional extra. We have to use multimodal text for analysis, for debate, for discussion in the classroom. And we need more presence of multimodal text in the classroom, and multimodal text have to be used critically and creatively. Okay. And all in order to be able to communicate effectively today, students need to be proficient in multimodal literacy. They know how to understand, they need to know how to understand and analyze multimodal text, and they need to know how to create multimodal texts. And obviously, although our main focus as language teachers should be on language, should be on the linguistic mode, learners also need help in developing their multimodal communicative competence, their ability to create multimodal texts, their ability to understand multimodal text. And this will help them to be effective communicators in private contexts, in social contexts, in academic contexts, and in work contexts. Okay, so I hope, so you can download the position paper here just by scanning the QR code there, and you've got a link to that there. Okay. I will now go to the Q&A, and I will just okay, so the Q&A here. Okay, so one of the questions there, this question relates specifically, I think, to the 3 S's and the 3 C's. Layla, should we ask questions in that order? I mean, can we ask questions about the setting before asking questions about the character? Yes, you can. With the 3 S's and the 3 C's, you can ask those questions in any order. It doesn't matter. With the other viewing routines, the visible thinking strategies, where there are just three questions, it's always in that order. But with the 3 S's and the 3 C's, you can ask the question in any order, that you want. Okay. Okay.
Kieran, this is Josh, the moderator. Sorry to jump in here.
Yes.
We've curated some questions in the priority tab, if you see that under the Q&A.
Yes. Okay. Yes. Okay. Yes, I can see that there. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah. Okay. One question from Mustafa there. Okay. Can we consider viewing as one of 3 steps, namely previewing, viewing, and reviewing? That's a very, very good question. And what I would say that in general, yes, that is the best approach to take. So previewing, doing work before students actually view the multimodal text. This could be by activating the student's schemata about the theme, the viewing session. Viewing is an important part, obviously, and then the reviewing or the post-viewing, that we have activities after the viewing which are created, that get students to discuss, to analyze, to debate the topic, the theme of the multimodal text. So in general terms, I would say that yes, absolutely, that we should consider it as previewing, viewing, and post-viewing rather than reviewing. Yes, that's a very good question. Okay. And there's one question from Hark. Has the focus on multimodal text lessened students' interest and focus on reading longer text such as novels? There has been a decrease in attention spans because of the increasingly visual nature of communication, but I don't think there's any correlation between students reading longer form texts. And in fact, if we think, for example, that with graphic novels, that combination of the linguistic mode and the visual mode will aid comprehension. So as language teachers, the use of multimodal text is extremely beneficial because it facilitates comprehension, it facilitates language acquisition, it facilitates recall. So there are many, many benefits in the language classroom of using multimodal text. That, as I said, they make texts easier to understand. They make language easier to understand. And there is a question by Vicky, who is an EAP and literacy teacher, how long it will take universities to make assessments more multimodal, as I'm constrained to teaching students what they need to pass an assessment. Any thoughts of this? This is an excellent question, and this is the key challenge at the moment, is getting the assessment so that when we assess the understanding of a multimodal text or the production of a multimodal text, that all of the multimodal text is assessed. Now, this relates to, again, to the position paper. In the position paper, you have an example of a rubric for viewing, which has been developed by the Saskatchewan Ministry of Education in Canada, and increasingly, and this has happened in Singapore, so you have the rubric for assessing. So increasingly, ministries of education are producing rubrics for assessing viewing, for assessing multimodal text comprehension. This is vitally important. It's taking time, but it's happening in many countries. So it's very, very important. The assessment of multimodal text comprehension and multimodal text production is vitally important. This is happening already. So, so that's a very, very important development there. Okay. I'm sorry, just one, Chiara, one question here. Is multimodal teaching suitable for young learners? Absolutely, absolutely suitable for young learners. It's the types of texts they're encountering outside the classroom. We're bringing that into the classroom, but it also, as I mentioned before, the multimodal text scaffolds language for students, so it makes the language more accessible for students. So it is particularly suitable for young learners. Absolutely. Okay, so I think that's all of the questions there. Some of the other questions are covering the same areas there. So I think that's fine.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Kieran. It was a wonderful session. And teachers, give him some love in the chat. See lots of thank yous. And yeah. So thanks again, Kieran. Amazing session, packed with so much visual imagery and information. And thanks again for all your work on that position paper. So teachers, if you didn't get a chance to download that, please do so. And I hope to see you at another Oxford event soon, Kieran. So thanks again.
I hope so, Josh. Thank you very much. And thank you to everyone for attending the session. I hope it was of some use to you. Thank you.